With no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, banking with Capital One is like the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. And with our top-rated app, you can bank anytime, anywhere, making Capital One an even easier decision.
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
New consumer accounts only. Approval required. Terms apply. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope, it's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Nope, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too.
Yes.
2021.
2021. We made it somehow.
Are you getting Arrow shows this week or next week?
Batwoman comes back next week, the 17th.
Yeah, a week from today.
Yes.
A week from today. And more importantly, arguably, WandaVision comes out this week.
That's right. We get the first 2 episodes this Friday. Yeah, so it's a 9-episode season, but it was confirmed that they're going to do the first episodes 1 and 2 this Friday, and then they'll be released weekly to finish out the run.
1, 2, 3. Wait. So it starts there.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I wonder if that means Falcon Winter Soldier will drop like the following week, because that's supposed to drop in March.
That's right. So that will take us right to it. Yeah.
Oh, Marvel, I love you.
Yep.
I love you so much.
Yeah. I was reading today, I think Feige and some of the other showrunners from WandaVision had a Zoom call today about the show, and talking about Feige actually even talked about, getting inspired by The Mandalorian, having that weekly release of the show to keep the buzz going instead of dropping it all at once. And I appreciate that, actually, because one of the shows that we're going to talk about here shortly with Cobra Kai season 3, I did binge it except for all but one episode, and then thinking with Mandalorian and even The Boys, but I really am back to the place where I do like having that weekly release, so I can actually process and enjoy the show and really take it all in instead of trying to, instead of slamming through it.
I go back and forth on it. I mean, binge watching shows, I personally love. I also have the time to do that. Will you not know so much?
Yeah.
But I also agree with you. There was this time when, before streaming services, when shows would air once a week and then go on a hiatus, and you would event television. You make a point of watching one thing over another. And so I think that streaming services, under these new models and knowing where we are with the state of movies, I think it's very important for the series that are going straight to the streaming services to kind of not be dropped all at once. That way people are not watching a movie, realizes how much it sucks, and then immediately canceling their subscriptions because they still have a TV show that they're only halfway through.
Right.
I think that did happen this week, but I'm not I may be wrong.
Well, I think the other thing too, I mean, there's some shows that lend itself where you can binge and it doesn't take anything away from it. But then there's others that really, like The Boys, for example, or even Mandalorian, where it's like, okay, it's good to have that weekly release, the show. So, but getting back to WandaVision, so far it seems that I guess folks who have had early screenings of it seem to like it. I've heard positive buzz about it. So it's definitely weird and definitely not it could either be really good or it could be really bad. I guess we'll find out starting this Friday.
My gut tells me it's not going to be really bad.
Yeah,
that's just and I've felt that way ever since it was announced, and then there were discussions. Actually, I think even when it was announced, because they made it a point of saying how that show would tie into Doctor Strange 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which has the coolest name ever, The Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, that is a great title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other news, CW has passed on Green Arrow and the Canaries, which I mean, cool. If they had dropped this, Will, I would have been like, "You're gonna watch the first episode." I'm not. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that as time progressed, it was getting clear that it was probably not going to get picked up, even though they said that they were not going to pick up the Canaries. I saw where I guess the prequel for the 100, I know that's a show you watched, may get picked up by HBO Max, but I don't think that's in the cards for Green Arrows and the Canaries.
Oh, I hope not. I didn't watch a single episode of the final season of the 100. It got so bad.
Did it?
So bad. I find it fascinating how series can start off one way and then just progress to this point where you're just like, it's everything you have now taken everything that I loved about it and just thrown it out the window because you clearly just wanted to have seasons for the sake of seasons.
Zero season 8.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Well, it's funny because when I saw the news about Green Arrow and the Canaries, the two highest rated episodes for that 8th season was obviously Crisis and this backdoor pilot for this show. We've talked about Steven and how basically he was just going for the check for that 8th season, just to as on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast. So it's there were a couple of storylines that maybe they could pick them up in some of the other series as far as like what happened to William but at the end of the day, I think the Arrowverse or CW-verse, as they are trying to call it now, which I think even more so now, given that they passed on this particular show, they're definitely going in a different direction. And I think some of our legacy shows, Flash is going to be probably ending before we know it. And the other shows that we've talked about coming online in the future will carry it forward, assuming that there's still an appetite for it. Yeah.
It is weird how there's been an announcement that Supergirl, this is their last season, and yet The Flash, there's been no hints that this is their last season. So right. It's interesting because I would have expected Grant to one out sooner rather than later, but maybe he likes the paychecks right now. So
yeah, maybe. And maybe whenever they'll continue it, and when the Flash movie, which I think is finally going to start going to production this year, maybe that'll sort of be a way that they can in the TV run as they go to the feature film.
I don't know how to transition from this because we've been on our own little hiatus, so I'm just going to say it because Will apparently wants to talk about this. The Sex and the City revival is coming to HBO Max, which I think is a little bit interesting because I know that they are getting ready to drop the revival of Gossip Girl, which I didn't even know was a thing until I started seeing set photos. And I did watch Gossip Girl back in the day. Pretty much generally most of the seasons, Chuck and Blair forever. But what is HBO Max doing?
Yeah. It's like,
are they why is it just revival after revival? And yet you and I went crazy for a lot of their original content this summer.
Yeah. I don't know why they are going back to the well. And I guess with the Sex and the City revival, everybody's coming back. I think Kim Cattrall is not going to be a part of it. But yeah, I think it's like a limited series run. And you're right. They have so many good new programs coming online, and so I assume there's still an appetite for it. I guess maybe instead of trying to do another feature film with this cast, they're like, okay, we can go to this reliable story show that still has a lot of fans out there, and just and drop it on a streaming platform again, trying to get eyeballs to it. So maybe that's part of the motivation.
Maybe. I mean, in my opinion, Gossip Girl makes a little bit of sense because it would be targeted probably at a younger audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also still have a little bit of the generation who watched the previous one. Sex and the City, I mean, I've never understood this franchise. And I understand, it was before my time. The movies, I don't think did that great. I think they did well enough to get a sequel, but still it kind of bombed more or less.
Yeah. And
now they're doing a revival, and it's not like Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl is a clear reboot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is just, yeah. This is like this is like revival, sequel, nostalgia trip, maybe. Again, like I said, I think it could just be one of those things where they're trying to get eyeballs to HBO Max, and this particular IP did have a very significant following in its heyday. So maybe they're just like hoping lightning will get captured in the bottle again, and we'll get subscribers to come check this particular show out.
Yeah. I think, though, if I understand the headlines over the last few weeks following the release of Wonder Woman, I don't think HBO Max, it's about getting subscribers. They still have yet to figure out how to retain those subscribers.
True. And this is the way they can do it.
Because it was pretty clear that I guess everyone purchased their subscription, watched Wonder Woman 2, and immediately canceled their subscription.
Yeah. It's like, wait, there's more.
Which this movie, Wonder Woman 2, 1984, it is targeted at a younger demographic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that a lot of the families with probably girls and boys too, between the ages of 6 to 10, they probably didn't already have a subscription. And if they did, it was probably under parental controls.
Yeah.
But so them kind of like, well, we want it so that they can watch this one movie, but we're not going to retain it because there's nothing else that we can watch, unlike Disney Plus, which has all of the kid content under the sun.
Yeah. But I guess even on HBO Max, though, they do have like Cartoon Network and some of the other platforms that you can go to under the HBO Max umbrella. So, I think it's just, I think Disney had two things working in their huge favor. One, the Mandalorian first season really was a real thing that brought Star Wars fans back into the fold after many of them were upset after the Rise of Skywalker, and so it was, so I think it created a lot of goodwill. And then I think the pandemic, and I think they were very smart in dropping Hamilton last summer, because it was to ride that wave of that very popular musical. And they had planned on airing that film in the theater, I think, this year, but they were smart in getting that on last summer. And I think from that point forward, people really bought into the platform and kept their subscriptions, because then they had time to cultivate other original content, and then of course as you said, the library that they have. And right after shortly after Hamilton, even though it wasn't I don't think it did as well as they had hoped. I mean, you also had the Milan release, so there were some other incentives for people to keep their Disney Plus subscriptions. Whereas like now, you're right. I mean, unless you really have a deep dive or a real need for some of the other offerings on HBO, there's really not that thing that says, oh, I must keep my HBO Max subscription.
Yeah, but I think Hamilton, because there wasn't really any immediate. I mean, it took them the first week of September, I believe that's when Mulan dropped.
Yeah.
You did have Beyonce drop Black is King at the end of July.
Yeah.
But I still think even then people wanted to rewatch Hamilton, and all the shade in the world. Very few people want to rewatch Wonder Woman 1984.
No, I haven't. I plan to.
It is daunting to want to rewatch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we were planning on. I know our original plan was to do a commentary rewatch of it together, and your response was, "It's painfully long."
I don't know what it was. I mean, I feel like the run times are very similar between the two movies. But man, watching 1984 was pulling teeth. It was just, okay, I see what you're doing. Okay, now we're going to get this scene that I've already seen a dozen times in the trailer. Okay, and then that'll lead to this scene. And why are they still talking? Why are we still trying to convince him to renounce his wish? What is this 2.5 hour Pedro Pascal monologue? Which I love Pedro Pascal. The interesting thing about this movie, I don't blame any of the actors.
No, not at all.
Not even Kristen Wiig. I get it. I get all the comparisons. I think she made, for the first time ever, she actually made that stereotype work. I liked Barbara. The writing was just atrocious.
Yeah. It was a very, and I tried not to let some of the early bad reviews color my viewing of it. So because it came out Christmas Day. I think I watched it, I guess, Saturday or Sunday after. So only been, so I hadn't had a chance to really let the negative vibes really sink in or anything yet. But as I was watching it, whenever at the very beginning of the film, we were back at the mascara, and I did like the Olympics or the games that they were having at the very beginning of the film. It did, and it of course it got the vibe from the first film that we had just rewatched just a week before. So so I had so that definitely I had some goodwill going into the film. Those callbacks to to her home worked for me. And then we go to that bad opening in the mall. I can't the mall from the point of the mall forward. It was really hard to watch that film.
Yeah,
that's where it lost me because it was just so many things about it. I mean, it was just the stunt work, just the whole premise of like how she dealt with the jewel thieves, and it was just bad.
yeah. So Themyscira is interesting because during our rewatch of the first one, which I'm still glad we did, because it kind of made me better prepared for being critical of this one in a way.
Yeah.
Like, if you thought these were weak spots in the first one, just you wait. They're not going to fix them. But Themyscira, I think it worked well in the first one because we spent 40 minutes there. 40 minutes. We spent 5 minutes, which was, and when it came out that studio didn't want to include that scene, I'm like, yeah, I get it now. Completely, because it felt so tacked on. And what really pissed me off in that scene was that the tie-in was so loose. They could have done something so much better. They did such a disservice to Diana because she learned a lesson that you can't cheat to win. Okay. I never thought of her as a cheater.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there was this, it was very thin how they looped that in, and I just, as soon as she said it, I'm like, oh God, oh no. And to your point, yeah, I completely agree. The mall sequence, you're just like, what am I watching?
Yeah, it was just,
What is this? This is so weird. And then it kind of got a little bit better for me because again, Barbara Kristen Wiig, she worked fine for me. I don't have a problem with, I actually kind of appreciated she unknowingly makes this wish to be like Diana and then starts to get these powers, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Because then she essentially is an Amazonian in her own right. They destroy that whole concept as soon as she says, I want to be an apex predator. And you're like, wait, what? Huh? How do you get, you're already powerful. What? Huh?
Yeah.
It just, and we haven't even talked about Steve and Diana.
Well, yeah, I'm with you there on Kristen Wiig. I actually, you're right. That overplayed trope that she played in this film, she did make it work. And granted, it's something that we see a lot of in these types of, in this genre and others as well. But it given how all over the place this film was to begin with, this was the one through line that actually did make sense and was actually believable as far as seeing her growth up into the point where she is on the plane with Maxwell Lord and asking for that that additional wish to become the cheetah, which
The only thing that I can explain, how I can explain that wish, is that they made it clear all of the wishes had a negative consequence. And with Barbara, the longer she was, her wish went on, it reduced her humanity. So everything that made Barbara who she was, it reduced that. Yeah. So her desire to then become an apex predator, well, it's because all of your good qualities, all of your compassion, is wiped away. But even again, I'm kind of tripping on my words because it's just it could have been written better.
It could have been. It totally could have been. And I mean, well, the whole film could have been. I mean, it was like it was they were trying to do too much and felt at pulling anything cohesive off. I think they could have either had Lord's, he was just basically a glorified, a walking MacGuffin. That they could have easily had just put that whole story away and just really, they could have just used the thing itself and just not even have had the whole storyline with Maxwell Lord in there, because it did. God bless Pedro Pascal. I mean, it just shows again how an excellent actor he is, that he took what material they gave him and actually pulled that character off in that film.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that too. I mean, I should really be cringing anytime he's on the screen, and yet I'm like, nah, it's Mando. It's fine.
Yeah.
He'll be Mando. He'll do the right thing in the end. That's fine.
Yeah.
They really should never touch his hair, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think that that point is also true to what they end up doing with Steve Trevor, where there are moments where this whole him coming back, him being her wish, work, because he really is the love of her life. And they spend so much time making it clear to the audience, hey, Diana is celibate. Diana has not had a boyfriend in 70 years, even though she looks like Gal Gadot. Okay. And I think even then we're like stretching our ability of disbelief. You're like, are you seriously? You've never, like, yeah, I'm sure. But and then I also thought it was a clever idea to tie in her losing her powers because of that wish. So she can't be the hero that he essentially died to make her. Like, in a way, like his sacrifice is what propelled her to become.
BBVA is your bank for a cash bonus. You could get $250 when you open checking and savings accounts by February 16th and meet the requirements. Get your $250 cash bonus. Go to any branch or visit bbvausa.com/250. That's bbvausa.com/250. BBVA, creating opportunities. All accounts subject to approval. $1,000 savings balance and $500 direct deposit required by April 30th.
The hero she is. Like, all that worked. And then you suddenly remember the rest of the world isn't seeing Steve Trevor. That's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Also, why is it that Diana only works when Steve Trevor is around?
Yeah.
Also, why can he fly everything?
Yeah, that was very convenient that the plane was fueled up. It was, the last thing he flew was 70 years ago, and now he was able to fly this jet. Yeah, that was, I mean, you can suspend disbelief to a point.
I mean, I like that. I like that scene in the moment, and then I start to think about the scene, and I'm suddenly like, oh, why?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the whole body thing, I mean, I couldn't help but think about Quantum Leap and Sam Beckett jumping from person to person, and
Kevin Smith said it best. I'm pretty sure it was even either Kevin Smith or Mark Bernardin, because they did their review and I was listening to it, and they just explained she essentially raped him.
Yeah.
Saw him at the end, and she didn't say anything.
Yep.
Not say anything. amazing. He also seemed very put together for basically having lost a few days of his life. Also, why isn't anybody saying, hey, thank you for saving the day? Because Steve Trevor was following Diana around through the White House and all this other stuff. And nobody could see Chris Pine's blue eyes. So, what happened?
Yeah. I mean, it was a clever trick. I see what they were trying to get there, but it just shows the weakness of this film. I mean, and it's not that we're being overly nitpicky. It's just basic storytelling, just making sure things are just logically consistent throughout in telling your story, and I think ultimately that's what causes this film to fail. Yeah,
and it's amazing because of how long this film has been in production.
Mm-hmm. You've had time.
And will. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was
just gonna say, and I will be one of the first to say, as soon as it was over, I was like, thank God this is on streaming, because
yeah. Yeah. Well, to your point about how long this film it has sat on the shelf, and you've had time to tinker with it. You could have, I mean, I know they, obviously all these films are always shown to test audiences, and and all. So you had time to do some cuts, maybe re-edit it in certain ways, but at the end of the day, that being said, I think there was just so many flaws within the story itself that even if you had tinkered with it, I don't know if it would have made it a better product.
Exactly. That's the exact point of this and takeaway, that here's another example. I've now seen Tenet 3 times, and a part of me, if I end up watching it again, it wouldn't surprise me, because for whatever reason, every time I watch that movie, I pick up on something else. As long as you watch with subtitles, watch with subtitles.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was first watching it, I was like, I kept overthinking things, and I wasn't. It fell flat, and yet I've rewatched it and it gets better with every experience. I think this movie gets worse with every time you rewatch it, because it allows you more time to think about what's actually going on and the lunacy that is going on.
Yeah. Which is such a shame. Yeah.
It really is.
Because,
am I surprised? No, because I had low expectations.
Yeah. Well, I know whenever we had our rewatch, we were like, well, we'll see. And and the thing is, for me, because it seems like the DC films were getting better. I really enjoyed Shazam. I actually enjoyed Aquaman. Aquaman was my least favorite of the characters that they have had on the big screen recently. But I actually like that film. And when Wonder Woman 3 comes out, I will watch it, and hopefully Patty and Gal have learned. Patty will learn from this film and realize and learn from it. I'm not worried about. I mean, I think she's smart enough of a director and storyteller that she will be able to look at this objectively and see where things just weren't executed, or the vision that they had, clearly didn't come through. And with the next film, we'll correct it. I'm not worried about with her being with Rogue Squadron or anything like that. I think everybody, when I said it's a shame, I do feel that way because the first film was so good, and especially having rewatched it recently, and just all of the positive things that came from it. as far as just culturally as well. So it's disappointing when the second one was such a letdown.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to be more critical of Rogue Squadron when it comes out, just because I'm starting to notice a pattern with Patty Jenkins. I honestly felt like people gave her too much credit for the first one. So, and now to see this and to know how involved she was, I'm like, okay, all right, well, we'll see how you do with a different franchise and then also the third one, because we know Wonder Woman, yeah, this is a bad movie, but so was Suicide Squad, and Suicide Squad got a sequel.
Yeah, true.
Oh, man. Anyways, we do have something else to talk about. Another kind of controversial, but I guess I'm in the minority because I really despise Cobra Kai season 3.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I just took it for what it is.
I took it for what it is, but y'all are just drinking the Kool-Aid on this. Your nostalgic Kool-Aid on this, yeah. And I know you weren't a fan of Karate Kid, but still, nostalgic Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I freely admit it. I think. I mean, well, go ahead. You start.
Okay. So I've thought long and hard about this. Took me one day to binge this entire season. Thank the Lord. It all boils down to one thing. Sam. Sam is one of the worst written characters on television I've ever seen. And to the point where it just makes me angry. Because I compare it to how bad Laurel Lance was written on Arrow. Yeah. And we all know how passionate I am about that statement. So just imagine. It frustrates me so freaking much. Because I was watching it and I'm seeing like all of these tie-ins between Danny and what he learned under Miyagi and how they are using these flashbacks for her storyline. And it all would have worked, Will, and I swear to God it would have worked had I had any empathy for her PTSD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I didn't, because if anyone's watching this show, it is always Sam's fault. Like, she is a big instigator, and it just drives me crazy when she then has these sob stories to her parents about how, well, I'm tired of being bullied. Sam, I don't think she was bullied at all. In that she was defending others who were bullied, but I hate this idea like, Sam, you're popular, like people like you, and now they're afraid of you because they know you can do karate. What are you talking about? Like, I'm tired of being bullied. You're not bullied.
Yeah.
You're in a situation where a girl is mad at you because you stole her boyfriend. You need to figure that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can't. No lies detected there. I mean, yeah, I think I was. Yeah, I hear that point, and I think one of the things that it took Allie's character to tell Danny and Johnny that they're more alike than they are different.
Oh. Yeah. And that's another thing. Difference between Allie and Sam. Allie is actually a good character. Mm-hmm. Sam is a horrible character.
Yeah.
Like, it's night and day. Allie, you have sympathy for. She's caught in the middle. Sam, you're just like, girl, make up your mind. Stop crying to mommy and daddy and playing victim. Oh my God, how many times did she play victim?
Yeah.
It's just, sorry, Will, you had me start and now I can't stop.
So go ahead. Preach.
So frustrated that nobody's talking about this.
Preach. You're right. Listen, I did not like Sam either. I don't like Sam. I think of the characters in season 3, and even in the prior seasons, with how she, plays these flirty games with Miguel, and then of course Johnny's son,
Robbie
is there, too, and yeah, I mean, she's very not a sympathetic character, and I guess that's the kind of things, even thinking back to the original Karate Kid, I didn't really like Danny's character, when in the originals, I was never a big fan of him. Not that I was a big fan of Johnny Lawrence either, because I mean, hell, he had his issues as well. But I mean, fast forward it to this current series, I think it even doubles down why one with Sam, but also even more with Danny, why I didn't, when I saw these films first go around, why I didn't like this character to begin with anyway, and I see it even more so as an adult, and somehow a little bit sympathetic to Johnny, especially when you see what he had to but what his perspective on things, and I think that's what I did like about the first season of this show, of Cobra Kai, and it's to sort of see how over the course of the 3 seasons how Johnny has grown and changed, and I think that's what I liked about this season, and in particular, and why I did enjoy this season was just to see how Johnny has evolved. And yes, it's, of course it does fall into the usual tropes where the former bad guy now is like come around, and now they're unified to go after the true big bad and Kreese. But I like that evolution of Johnny. To me, is a very sympathetic character, whereas Danny to me is not.
He's on the redemption road.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that they do with Johnny, I think most viewers are on board with, because he's a flawed character who is being redeemed through this series. And so he's that underdog. And what's nice is what they did is they set him up with very similar situations to how we met Danny in the original film series of not having a lot of money, having these other problems exist. He doesn't really know his son, even though he wants to, but he also never really figured out how to be a father. Mm-hmm. And so I agree. Like, as much as Sam is the weakness in this series, Johnny's the strength. And I'm always going to be on board with watching this show, just because I want to see this redemption story come through. I do have another problem with this season, because you could have predicted the finale within the first episode. Yeah. And I also, because of the way it ends, I feel like it's half a season. It's really annoying. Yeah. And then other things they did, for all of the Easter eggs and the tie-ins to the series that they would give you, they also gave you Miguel basically recovering from breaking his back within the matter of weeks. Oh, yeah. Which is, Robbie being placed in, I think, juvenile detention, but they try to make it appear as prison. I don't know. On the run from the cops, but still being able to get out within the course of the season. I really don't understand any of that.
Yeah. Well, these kids are like ninjas by the end of second season. Now they're like masters in the third.
But I could buy into that. I kid you not, Will. Like, we have both watched season 2. Season 2, everyone started picking up that the kids are the weakest points of this, and it's not because of the bad acting. It's because of bad writing of just the cliches and the melodrama of it all.
Yeah.
But I bought into the school fight. I was like, I'm totally fine with it. And then they had, like, you could have continued that ninja, like, which they did in this season, but then they sprinkle in these other things, and suddenly I'm like, whoa, this isn't Wonder Woman 1984. Let's take it back a bit. We can only suspend so much disbelief here.
Yeah. Yeah, true. What did you think about the whole Kreese backstory?
No, I fell asleep during those episodes. I don't care to know about it. I really don't. I'm actually, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I believe why those episodes didn't work for me is because he is such the stereotypical villain.
Mm-hmm.
And they really need to make him, you can't have two redemption stories. Like you have Johnny and you have this relationship between him and Danny, and those two characters work so well off of each other that you need Kreese so you can force them to finally come together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
But why? We don't need to know why Kreese's way is to do that. We could have actually spent a ton more time with Johnny. Or even Allie. We got Allie for like an episode or two.
Yeah.
Or even Danny got his Japan adventure, which I didn't mind. I don't mind, again, all of the tie-ins that they did, all of the nostalgia to the original film series could have worked. And I would have been on with everyone else drinking the nostalgic Kool-Aid. But for whatever reason, I'm the only one who really got stuck.
Sam,
shit.
Yeah, Sam did it for you, and it just went down here from there. I like the tie-ins going back with Johnny. I met Daniel going back to Japan, and then again learning from the person he fought in the second film. And how that all unfolded. So so there's definitely the nostalgia piece, and there's definitely those things, those bits and Easter eggs do work. Again, you just have to just sort of roll with it that these kids can become black belts in a matter of just a short period of time. And you're right. There were several redemption stories in this season. Not only I don't know if they were trying to do a redemption story with Kreese. I guess it was more maybe trying to flesh out why he is the way that he is. Because I thought the other redemption story clearly was spiky haired dude. Hawk. Yeah. There was that one, but I don't know if I completely agree with you that Kreese is a redemption story.
Well, no, that's a fair point. Maybe I said it wrong. Maybe it's not that it's the redemption story, but it's that thing that they do now, where it's, oh, you think this is a bad person? Well, let us tell you the origin of your villain. Because you want three-dimensional villains and people just being bad, and again, you could have spent all that time fleshing out these poor kids, because another character who gets disserviced is Tori, right? I think that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
She actually, what Kreese does for her, that is pretty screwed up, what the situation she's put in with her mom and having this grimy guy, and yet she's the villain to Sam, who got an arm scratched. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Maybe they're just doing an exceptionally good job to make me despise Sam the way some people despise Danny in the first one.
Yeah.
But I think she has to be a little bit likable, and to do that and doing all this stuff with Tori where by the end of it she really is kind of the queen bee of Cobra Kai. It just I don't know. They could have spent more time with her, giving her more opportunities to for others to finally understand her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end, it felt like they were rushing to conclude the season, so they just had to make her very bad.
Yeah, they did. I mean, she's definitely like the new Johnny of the original in this particular series for Cobra Kai.
Yeah, which and maybe they'll change it because that's the point. The show is all about perspective. And,
it is.
And everyone's a hero, but everyone's also a villain in their own right. And so maybe next season we'll have more of a heroic story for her. But I think they could have done that this season and maybe decrease the Kreese history lesson.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I did feel that it was a bit. You're right. It was trying to give us some depth about his motivations and why he is the way that he is, but it didn't. Yeah, it fell flat. It fell flat for me. It did. As far as like trying to trying to add another layer to this particular character. I don't think it was. I agree with you. You could have easily used those minutes on other characters to flesh out their current motivations, especially with the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beyond the contrived melodrama that they have set up with the various factions on the show.
Oh, but that's all they want to do with those poor children.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, we'll see in season 4. I mean, I'm still on board with the show. 2 of the 3 seasons knocked it out of the park for me. This last one, and maybe I'm just feeling overcritical of things right now. Because content, especially over the last few weeks, has been few and far between.
Yeah.
But it just, I guess I'm also a little bit tired of everybody just focusing on the obvious positives and not really recognizing that there's this other fair amount of the show that actually didn't work.
Yeah.
Very much like Wonder Woman 1984. In the moment, you're like, oh, cool, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But then you start to think about it, and suddenly it's like, yeah, there was really no motivation, and where the heck are the cops?
Yeah, really. Yeah, you have the namby-pamby, like, city council who are like, we're going to ban all karate events, and then they have this impassioned speech by, like, Miguel and Sam and us to no, we need this, and then I was like, thanks, kids, but sometimes we got to be the grown-ups in the room to protect you from yourselves. Right.
We're gonna see a bunch of articles come out about how people stopped enrolling their kids into karate because of Cobra Kai.
Yeah,
exactly. You don't want you to become a ninja and then feel like you can go to a carnival and jack a bunch of kids. All right. Well, that's it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
You can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.
Here's 3 great reasons to get the new Samsung Galaxy S21 5G at T-Mobile. 1, it's free for both current and new customers when you trade in an eligible device. 2, T-Mobile's the leader in 5G coverage. So 3, you can unleash 5G speeds in more places with your new phone. Get the new Galaxy S21 free at T-Mobile, the leader in 5G coverage.
Phone via 24 monthly bill credits plus tax. If you cancel credit, stop, and balance on required finance agreement may be due. Contact us. Qualifying credit and consumer plan required. See details at T-Mobile.com.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change. Like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.